I'm so relieved and excited that it finally happened. We've had a cameo from Cheers and Frasier. Freddy's birthday is the seventh episode of the first season of the Frasier reboot. This episode is directed by the brilliant Kelsey Grammer, and we have a cameo. We have Lilith. I am over the moon. I knew Bebe Neuwirth was going to be in this, but I didn't expect them to take 7 episodes. And bearing in mind there are only 10 episodes, and there's at least one other, I believe, confirmed cameo. I thought they would have spread them out a bit more, but either way, absolutely better late than never because I love Lilith. I love her so much. And honestly, this is generally a fantastic episode. There was at least one thing that I didn't think was the right decision, and I will explain what I mean by that. So there will be spoilers from this point on, and some of them will be quite big spoilers, so absolutely check out the episode and please do let me know what you think. But spoilers from now. This, of course, takes place at the time of Freddy's birthday, and Freddy didn't tell Frasier that he was having a birthday party, a bowling party, because Lilith was already invited. He invited Lilith before Frasier moved back to Boston, and he decided it was easier to just not tell Frasier because he didn't want his parents in the same room. As a child of divorced parents, I get it. I completely understand. But Frasier and Lilith aren't really happy about this, and they think that they should both be there. And it seems like they're going to be able to get on and, put their differences aside for Freddy's birthday. But obviously, it's Frasier and Lilith, and they have a lot of remarks and a lot of little comments to each other, and it's beautifully written. It's a very, very well written episode, and for me, most of the comedy comes from Lilith, which I kind of expected. I love her dry humor. I think Bebe Neuwirth has a really great way of delivering comedy with Lilith, and I absolutely adored her. There is one thing with the comedy that I thought they were doing, but it turns out they weren't. And again, I'll discuss that in a moment. I will go through various things chronologically to kind of keep some logic to my thoughts because I have a lot of thoughts and generally they're all really positive. The bowling atmosphere, it worked quite well. It's not what I'd expected. I'd assumed it was going to just be some kind of gathering in a pub or something like that. But it worked quite well. It gave us some comedy. One of my favourite lines was about Lilith putting her fingers in public holes. I've never heard the phrase public holes, but that is exactly how I'm going to refer to the holes in bowling balls from now on. And it obviously meant that we had some of Freddy's friends there. I thought that worked really well. We have David again, who's got a really great energy. I wish David had been in this a little bit more. He hasn't really been that prominent over the last few episodes, so I'm hoping we get a lot more of him in the final three. Final three! I can't believe there are only 3 left. So the atmosphere, the bowling setting, I thought it worked quite well. I found it really fascinating how Freddy's friends were responding to Lilith, or Dr. Sternin, as they were referring to her, which I thought was rather fabulous and very Lilith. Very, very Lilith. Alan was there as well, which I thought was a little bit random, but he was absolutely brilliant. His outfit was fantastic. And what I thought is that Lilith was toying with him. I thought, maybe not to begin with, but once he explained who he was, I thought she'd actually remembered who Alan was, but that she was just keeping up this pretense of not knowing who he was to irritate him. So when we had the scene where the penny dropped and she suddenly remembered who he was, I didn't really like that because it meant that what I thought was funny before that, where she was choosing to pretend to not remember him, that was no longer funny because that's not actually what was going on. So that part of it I didn't like, and I think it would have been much better and more entertaining to have Lilith playing with him. I think that was much more in her character. And I also don't think that she's the kind of person who would forget something like that. She seems to have a very sharp mind and a very sharp memory. But it didn't affect my overall enjoyment of the episode, of course. I still really thoroughly enjoyed it. Then we have the gift giving, and Lilith gave the football, and it did seem a little bit peculiar. And then, of course, she revealed there was actually a football player, and I have no idea what was going on. I don't follow football, I don't care for football, but if Freddy was happy, then that's pretty great. Of course, we have Frasier's gift with the pen, and I thought that played out exactly as I would have expected, to be honest. So that was quite entertaining, and that worked really well. While it's very funny, we did actually have what I consider to be almost a really beautiful scene, and I think they spoiled it. And I'll be honest, I don't love what they did with it. The scene I'm talking about is the scene in Freddy's bedroom, of all locations, and I think this is the first time we've seen Freddy's bedroom. Correct me if I'm wrong, but certainly it's not a room we spend a lot of time in. And Lilith and Frasier are sitting on his bed, and they have a really lovely moment together. And being a big Cheers fan, it was reminiscent of some of the sweeter moments between them for me. I rather enjoyed that. And then Frasier reached out and held Lilith's hand, and I thought, this is beautiful. It's really lovely. And then he commented that her hand was as cold as ice, and I thought, great, they haven't broken how they feel about each other. They still have this kind of bickering and bitterness between them, but they can still be sweet to one another and be kind to each other when they need to be. And I thought, this is perfect. Let's end it there. Let Freddy come in, be shocked that his parents are in his bedroom. That will be entertaining enough. But no, they have to almost start making out. And I honestly feel like that. I don't want to say it ruined the episode, because it didn't. I still think it's a great episode. I still have really, really strong feelings about Lilith being back, strong positive feelings about her being back for this episode. But I feel like that just. I don't believe it. I don't believe it's something they would have done. I don't believe it was the right decision to make. And I think it kind of ruined that otherwise perfect moment where there were still some, snide remarks between them, but they were being kind to each other, and it was progress without changing how they really felt about each other. And then they kind of ruined it with actions that I don't think were realistic. So that I didn't love. But ultimately, it's a wonderful episode. Heartbroken that we only have 3 left. Desperate. As I've mentioned in every Frasier discussion for the reboot, I'm hoping we get more Cheers cameos. Any Cheers cameos. I've not heard anything. Honestly, I've not really looked that hard. I've tried to avoid any kind of spoilers, but obviously certain things I can't avoid. But nevertheless, I know we have at least one more that I think is definite. Despite a few small things, though, I think Freddy's birthday is a pretty gorgeous episode.